Well, welcome back to DevCon. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software, and I'm pleased to present our solutions engineer, Chris Martin, who today is going to be going over working with Cordova plugins. Cordova, sometimes, which was previously known as PhoneGap, or sometimes went by a couple names, but Cordova is the preferred name, allows you to build into your applications things that aren't normally supported by HTML5. You'll have access to the accelerometer, to Bluetooth, and a whole bunch of other things. Now, as time progresses, Cordova is still what we consider to be the sort of the gold standard in building an application. You could build one that gets put into the App Store. It could be put into Google Play and all that. Although, as you saw earlier, there are some alternatives like Alpha Launch and one you'll see tomorrow with progressive web applications. But for those of you willing to dive right into Cordova, put on your thinking caps because Chris has got a great presentation here for you. So let me go ahead and make you the presenter, Chris. And I'm going to drop off camera. And I'll let you know when I can see your screen. You should see a dialog box. Oh, it says waiting to view Chris Martin's screen, but it's not loading yet. Oh, there it is. Oh, and
I had to hit show my screen.
Monitors. Boy, that's a lot of monitors. I see a PowerPoint up at the top, and I see where your mouse is down at the bottom.
Oh, which screen are you seeing?
I think I'm seeing two stacked, believe it or not.
Believe it or not, huh? Because you should only be seeing the one with the presentation right now.
I see. So go ahead and go to the sharing section and choose a different screen. Maybe just choose your PowerPoint. Probably take care of that.
Stop sharing screen.
Yep. And there's a drop down under the show screen. Oops, same deal.
Okay. Yeah, and it shows the correct monitor. That's one I clicked on, screen 3.
There we go. Fantastic. We're all set now.
Okay.
All right.
Let's have more technical difficulties. Can help spread this out a little more.
All right, let's get going.
Okay. Anyways, hey, before I get going, I want to show my new setup here that I have here for doing coding for Alpha.
What now? Wait, how many monitors do you? Oh, I'm confused. Oh wait, one of those must be a. Holy cannoli!
some of these are USB, some of these are HDMI's. So now I have 3 monitors for my PC when I'm working on the PC, and now I have 3 monitors for my Mac machine when I'm working on that, so I can drag things around. This, of course, is my Alexa view sitting in the middle. And this is my, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. This is my iPad Pro over here, which I sometimes watch old reruns of the Three Stooges on. And
fantastic.
That's it. And I keep clicking it instead of using the arrow. So anyways, I'm gonna take you a little ways back in this presentation just to show how lucky we are living in these times and having tools like Alpha Software. And for Alpha users that have never used anything but to show what times used to be like. And a while back, I used to work for a wire wrapping company, and they were actually a company that was under a larger corporation that got shut down. When they reopened on their own, they had already lost their complete development team. The company hired me to figure it all out. Most of the work that came in was military boards needing wiring. The past developers had already created the application that could read point-to-point data and writing that data out to a format that could be read on a PC. What they needed me to do was get the data. And by the way, one of these boards here, if you put it on somebody's chair, it's a lot better than a whoopee cushion, I'm telling you. So
hang on one moment. I just want to see if someone's asking whether or not the presentation is started. Do we have a Okay, wonderful. Excellent. So it has started. That's terrific. Okay. I was thinking we were running into some sort of technical difficulty, but we started a minute early. No problem. Please carry on.
Going good? Okay. All right. So like I was saying, most of the work that came in was for military boards. Basically, government is always a little behind in the times, and they were at the time still using this, even though they were PCs that were out, and they were creating um, new circuit boards with etchings. But I needed to collect the data, and the machines that they used to output the data must have come from the Mercury space missions like this, which is a punch card reader. So this is what I had to read data from, was a punch card reader, and this is a punched card. And these punch cards were in a stack. They came in a box, all stacked together. And here's a view of several 62,500 punch cards. So you can imagine if you dropped one, what a mess that would make. And that kind of leads to our next technology here, which is the punch tape. And this is a machine, and you can see in here there's a spool for reading this punch tape. I also got data on a mag tape in the machine, which I think realize now that this is more of a drawing of a mag tape machine, which I had to read data from. And all this contained was simple point-to-point data for the wiring of the wire wrap boards. I was fortunate to have a little bit more modern tools that I could use to get the data, like the 8.5 or the 8-inch floppy, the 5 1/4 and the 3.5-inch floppy. But it did get worse. Yes, I also have got data in this format, which is the dot matrix printer, and it was point-to-point wiring, and I had to enter the data myself. So going forward, and technologies got better and better. Everybody started getting things like in the starting in the 90s, going into the 2000s, started getting smartphones. And this is one of the earliest smartphones that was out there. Well, I wouldn't call it a smartphone. I mean, and it's not even a smartphone. It was a bit like a smartphone, but you could play games, you could do things on it, but it was a flip phone, and this is what a lot of people had in the beginning. But then when Steve Jobs came out with Apple, came out with the first iPhone, which really looks kind of small here in this picture, the world really opened up and started changing. Microsoft came in late, but they eventually worked on making their own smartphones. Android stepped up before Microsoft also. So it was pretty much Android and Apple that were kind of competing head to head. But there were tons of tools that you had to learn how to use in order to program. You had to program in native language, and native for me, for the first app that I did was using Visual Studio, because they had Silverlight, which was the same language that they were Silverlight with C# that they were using, and Silverlight being the UI and C# being the code behind is what they were using on the phone. So since I already knew that, I started with that. Next, I went to the Android, and I was using Eclipse software to learn how to write. Not for Android, and I was able to kind of copy a lot of the code that I already did and just modify it, because Java wasn't too much differently structured, so I was able to use it. But then last, I did my first iPad application, which was actually, I was hired as a hired gun to create an iPad app for a company in Boston. So next thing that was needed for developers is developers were looking for a tool that would allow them to build an application that could run on all devices. And at the time, I was working with a company called Xamarin. Now, Xamarin basically had a tool that they claim you could build using one tool for all applications, but in the beginning, it really wasn't true. You had to build your UI using the proper tool for the device. So for Microsoft, you had to build your UI in Visual Studio. For Android, you had to use Eclipse or another tool that was out. And for iOS, you had to use Xcode to build your UI. And by the way, yes, Xamarin was named after the Xamarin Monkey, and that's why I have that screenshot here. So I'm trying to get caught up here. So anyways, I was hired by a local company called Event Day, and they were putting together a Microsoft, they were in charge of putting together all Microsoft developers conferences. They were tasked or volunteered themselves to write a conference application for Xamarin attendees. One of the owners I knew working with Xamarin, knew that I was working with Xamarin and asked me to give it a shot. I had just a few months to write it, and all three platforms. Xamarin at the time required you to, like I said, to create a UI for each of the platforms. The common code written in C#. It wasn't really that much less work than using native. About a couple of weeks into the project, Xamarin announced that they were coming out with their Xamarin Forms. They weren't as powerful, but they were an actual tool that allowed you to build once, deploy many times, but their marketing department did not want us to use it. The new app that they were going to be demoing at their conference to write the app. Eventually, we convinced them to do that. We were basically joint coding. I was doing it the old way. We had another developer doing it the new way, and of course, the new one won out, and they displayed it there. So not long after this, I got a call from Dave McCormick wanting to give Alpha another shot, and again, and now that it was using PhoneGap to access and control device hardware, create an APK, IPA, a ZAP file, which is for Windows. You're not going to hear about that much more. So the files I could then publish to the stores. I liked it so much that Dave hired me. So anyways, that was the start of my career at Alpha Software. Okay. So I'm gonna next step to Alpha Anywhere here, and I'm gonna show an application that I built. It's called Virtual Docent, and this is really just a section of the application. Here, I'm doing screenshots here because I can't, with all the stuff that I have open, I can't access the actual development environment, which is on another PC. With all the monitors that I have, it can't be done. So anyways, I'm gonna show the app that I created, and it's basically, this is an app that can that I want to be able to scan in text, have that text translated to ASCII by using the capture button, and for test purposes, then converted from text to speech after I do a scan. So this screen is where I need to enter content for the records I am editing. Excuse me. There are several options I have to do this. I could type it in by hand, but that would be painful on the device keyboards of devices, not very pleasant typing on them. There's also the option to click the microphone when the keyboard comes up, but for me, with my Rhode Island accent, I don't always get the words that I expect to see. I also found I have created a web application for editing and collecting the data for this application. Several other apps are available on Android and iOS that I can scan text, then use optical character recognition software to convert it to ASCII. But I needed something that I could use within my app. So one of the first things I did is I checked with our plugins to see if there was anything in here that was anything like I needed, and there wasn't. So I went to Google and I did a search, and I found, yeah, there are some Cordova plugin mobile OCR programs that are out there. So I figured I would give these a shot. But before taking you to how to go get the plugin and how to bring it in order to get to that process, you have to click the save button down here, and and also to build a project, you have to enter some information that's in here. So I'm going to first go through this Cordova project screen and sh show you all the information you need to fill in before we finally get down to the bottom here, and we click save and we open up the XML file, and I show you where you put the, if you are getting a third-party plugin, how you add it to the XML file, save it, and then run your project again. The first I would like to talk about is the app build socket. There used to be an option to select PhoneGap build, but that option is no longer available. CLI or command line interface and Ionic app flow are the only choices now. App flow came around just in time to replace PhoneGap build and operates pretty much the same way. As with PhoneGap build, Alpha Anywhere generates all the files needed to upload to AppFlow. AppFlow then generates and builds the APK and the IPA file that's required, whether the build version or the test version or the release version, whichever one you need, and then publish it to the App Store. If you don't have the time or equipment, such as Mac, AppFlow may be the choice for you. The cost per month is about just a little more than it used to be for PhoneGap build, so it's just a little more expensive, but it's not bad. At least it was with the second choice, and that's using the CLI. You can find out how to set this up in Alpha Anywhere documentation. For Android, Alpha will use the tools you installed after going through this, the instructions that are here in our Alpha documentation. I should have been on that screen. So anyways, for Mac, it's a little bit of a different story, and this is where I need to show you Xcode. So I'm gonna have to escape from my presentation here for a second and move things around a little. When Alpha builds your project for building an Xcode to create an IPA file, it gives you it's two files that you can now bring over to your Mac computer. Then on your Mac computer, you bring up the terminal software that comes with Mac. You'll find this in the Finder, if I can bring a Finder up here with all the screens that I have. But anyways, there's a Finder app that will show this. So this is actually sitting on my home screen on my desktop. So I'm going to change directory to desktop. Then I'm going to change it to TF. And then I'm going to just simply scroll up and get the bash command here. So this is what you need to build the files that you're going to need to bring into Xcode when you do this bash build sh. So I'm going to do that right now, and you'll be able to see this run. It's created this folder. The folder name was taken from the application. This is Transformer Filler. This is actually part of our Transform product, what runs in the mobile device. So take a little bit of a time to build everything it needs. A lot of dead air, Dave. Is dead air okay?
I don't know. How long is it going to take to build? It looks like it's almost done.
It's almost done.
Yeah, that's cool.
Takes
So,
a little time.
so that bash script or that build script is actually created for you by Alpha, and you just bring it over to your Mac. Is that the deal?
You just bring it over to the Mac, and then
Oh, that's cool.
then you bash it.
And you bash it.
Yeah, it makes you feel mean.
Yeah, it's satisfying. Yeah, I can see that.
Yes. We bash that thing.
So it's taking your HTML5. It's taking all the plugins that you've included, of which it looks like we've included an awful lot. We have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it's putting it in a format that Xcode needs it to be in to build out the IPA, or simply to run it locally on an emulator, which is what I'm going to do.
Now, a quick reminder, the IPA is the file that you use when building building Apple apps, is that right? And it's
Correct. It's an IPA file. The APK
IPA, an
is for
APK for
Android.
Android. All right.
Yeah. Yes. Any
Good.
questions while I'm going through this so far that can be answered
No
now?
question yet, but if we do have questions, go ahead and type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel.
Yeah, this is one of those things you don't have complete control over, especially when you have 20 applications running. This does go a lot faster because this is a pretty souped up MacBook Pro. It's I just got it a few years ago. It's not one of the new ones with a new processor, but it's got 16 gig of RAM and solid state 1 terabyte hard drive.
Sweet.
And it looks like it's done.
Yeah.
It's actually finished. So I'm gonna get that off the screen for now and let's concentrate on this. So what I'm looking for in this file that got created is, if I drill down here, there's a folder called platforms right here. If I open platforms, there's a folder called iOS. Open iOS, and I see that down here there's a transform workspace. This is the file that I want to open up in Xcode. So I'm just going to right click it here and say open with, because I have many versions installed on my machine, and grab 12.4. To save time, I have my emulator already open here. So I'm kind of jumping ahead of what all is going to be built once you get all your settings and everything put together to build these files.
Now, one of the questions is, do we have to be aware of version tracking? And if I recall, when it comes to versioning for this, that actually happens in alpha anywhere, right? Where you assign it a version number and a name and stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna be showing that section, I believe, later on, the versioning.
Oh, okay.
It's not a concern with an IPA because you can change that right here in Xcode. Android, on the other hand, has some settings you have to set, and I'll show one of them. One of them is actually you can keep the same version. It's actually an APK version that they put in there. Each time you do a push up to the store, you have to change that APK version.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
anyways, see if I got everything up here. Okay, so a lot of the information here, when we get back to the the builder page in Alpha, is that you're going to see that you need to enter. This is where it actually gets pulled in. So the version number, the display name, the build identifier, all of these things come in from there. If you're doing an ad hoc, which I'm going to do right now, pretty much this is all you need to do for settings over here, besides select the device that you want to push to. In my case, I believe I chose the Mac, and that's the one I'm going to pick. But if you were signing to publish, well, that goes directly to your account. So one of the things you have to do is uncheck this first, and then check it again to enable automatic. And then here are your choices for where you want to publish it to. And transform would be published to Alpha software if I were doing a build. And then from there, there's a few more steps that you have to take to create the IPA file. And Apple does all the signing for you. So I'm just going to come back to this screen. I picked the iPhone 12 Max Pro, and now I'm going to run this. So I have two open. You should see this come up on the emulator. Need a theme from Jeopardy. Do, 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 do. I can play it on my guitar. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Little
So
slow.
does this usually take like a minute or so to complete, or? Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see.
it'll be
Oh,
done
and
in a second here.
it gives you a little, I see. Yep,
Yeah, you
overlook.
can see up at the top, it's building 57, and some of them are a little faster, and then it'll get to 104, get to the end here, and then
Mhm.
you'll see the application pop up over here,
Fantastic.
and we're almost there,
Great.
unless there's an error and something broke.
That never happens in a live demonstration, so I wouldn't worry about it.
No, it never happens in a live demonstration. Indexing the data. There we go.
There we go. Very
It's
cool.
transform filler. Trust me, this runs a lot faster when you're not streaming video and
I
have
imagine.
20
Yep.
other things running on your PC. Even this runs a lot faster. It's faster. This should have been come up by now, but it's running a little sluggish right now. This is the splash screen, one of the other parameters that you set back in the screen that we're going to be going to.
Mhm.
And it may show up sometime. It's not important if it does. Trust me, it will open. So let's take this out of here for now, and it's done. It did a build. I'm gonna actually close some of this.
Mhm.
So it might help me out a little in the rest of the presentation. Stop tasks. Okay, so I need to get back to PowerPoint and close this and try to find power. Here it is. Here's my PowerPoint. So I'm going to zoom back into this. Okay, so I'm showing that screen. What's my next thing I'm going to do? Okay. All right. So I talked about the app build target here. Took you and showed you, where you can get more information on actually doing these types of builds using AppFlow or using the CLI. Next important information you're going to need is the Cordova project platform. Now, by default, neither of these are checked when you come in, but you may only be developing for Android, or you may only be developing for iOS, or you may be developing for both, but they're not checked. So when you check these, different options are going to show up down at the bottom here. And I'm gonna, realizing that I'm not showing the whole slideshow here, so I want to, where do I start from where I'm at? Play from current slide. There we go. Okay. So the next one down here is the build UX. This is your UX control that you're building. You may have several UX controls. You could have several UX controls in your project and test them separately. But you would select the UX control from there to be a pop-up here, and you'll pick the control that you want. If you're not going to be accessing data or having to do AJAX callbacks for your project, you don't have to put anything here. Otherwise, you would have to put the path to get your AJAX callback calls here. Other information, additional files that you want to include, that you want to have on the phone when you do the publish. Generate image resources, and those image resources are down a little bit below. The reason it's a checkbox is because when it opens again, it won't be checked. So once you've built them, each time you do a build, it won't try to generate all the files again unless you decide you made a change and you want to do that. The other thing that you can do is create an instant update. But if you set this to yes, after your first build, you'll get a little pop-up on the app when it runs on a device that'll say that it's something like version 1. And each time you make a code change, you don't have to go through the process of doing this build each time. Instead, it will bring you to a different screen, which will allow you to just update what's already there. So it's a really nice feature to look more into. So this is where all the images go, your screenshots, your icon that is going to be used. These are all things that are going to be uploaded and used by iOS and Android for building your app for the App Store. as I showed you in the previous screen, there was information for versioning. Uh, uh, the excuse me, back one. The name of your app. This, of course, isn't the one I was using when I was showing you the demo, but that's what some of that information comes right there. And let's see. Unfortunately, I don't have the screen here for the versionings where the versioning happens, but a little lower in here, there's a screen for versioning, and that's where you can put your version number. And there's a spot there for Android APK, and each time you do a build, it expects to see that number bump. So if you're doing for Android, always remember that bump that build number up before you go in. Okay, now I'm going to get into the XML code. So down at the bottom, normally you would hit save and launch Cordova build. Once everything is set up, you have your plugin set up and everything is going well, you're just going to do a new build, you just click this. However, if you decided that you found a plugin that's not included in alpha and you want to include it, you could click this save button. When you click the save button, you'll get this screen. And one of the first things I want to show is the editing usage descriptions for plugins. Some of the plugins, for instance, the camera require, as it's going to show here, more information. Say this was the camera, it's like why it's an explanation to the users that are going to be running your app what you're going to be using the camera for. So this is an example, and you can copy it right into your code of creating a usage description string. So you can copy that right in there. So I'm going to come back to here, and now we're going to get to the XML file. This has been here for a long time. The click to view and edit the Cordova project XML configuration. At the top of the screen, you'll see a lot of things, the name of the app that were copied down to this file, which is where Xcode and Android pull all that information is from this config file that's created. If I scroll down a little ways here, you can see some of the plugins that were already checked. And then back at the previous screen, a few back, plugins that were decided that they wanted to use. I'm gonna zoom in a little better here. And one of the plugins is the Cordova plugin file. And the information that you're gonna need when you go look for your plugin, it's gotta have a name, it has to have a source. It doesn't have to have a version number, but it's nice to know where to get the version number if you decide that if there is an issue with the most current, if you don't put this in there, the most current version is the one that's going to run. However, if you find you need to back it up a few versions to use it, then you would put a version equals whatever version you want to run right here. So next I'm going to minimize this again, and I do an escape. Yeah. And move this out of the way. Pull this up and zoom in there. So there's our conference. So the plugin that I showed earlier that that I decided to use was the Cordova plugin Mobile OCR. And this plugin has been out there a while. The last time it was published a year ago. So people are still maintaining it. If it's not broke, they're not going in and fixing it. But this is a whole community up here in Cordova of people writing and maintaining these plugins. So this is going to be around for a very long time. And part of what I was going to show is that you can also create your own plugins. I'm going to step back to this in a minute, but I'm going to show you here where we have a link to GitHub for this particular plugin. And if you click on code, you have the ability to download the zip. You can take that zip and you get the entire code. And if you want to learn how to write Cordova plugins, they say it's a good place to start. I'm working on writing them from scratch, and the help on doing this was really not very helpful. There were lots of sites that's claimed even at Cordova, but I heard of people not having luck with these instructions. But I will be going through them, and I know it can be done because Bob has done it. So I took it upon myself to try to figure it out on my own, but I think I may be calling Bob to write some good documentation on how to use this. So anyways, this is the plugin that I'm using, and the plugin that has, it doesn't say it under the dependency up at the top, but in order to scan in a document for the OCR to use, you either need to use the Cordova plugin or the Cordova plugin document scanner. I chose the document scanner, so it's not in any of the slides here, but basically the same way I will be showing you how I laid out the plugin for the OCR plugin. I did the same thing for the document scanner. There's lots of information on these plugins. Here we have the support. It's supported for Android and it's supported for iOS. These are the steps for if you want to install locally on your machine and get into debugging and troubleshooting locally on your machine with iOS or with Android. There's lots of information here like plugin usage. You just can scroll on, and we're several versions in on this, and it also gives you examples down here on ways to test your plugin in your app. So I think that's my cue to go back to get this out of the way. Back to here, yes. So here I am. So the plugin I was using is the Cordova plugin, Cordova plugin mobile OCR. Now here we have the name. So I had to put the name in here. It's simple just to copy one of the other plugins and just replace the values. So we have Cordova plugin mobile OCR. We did a source npm, and just to show you, say I wanted to revert back to a previous version that they had, and you can find all of that up on the website. I put in a 1.3.3 so I could actually run that. I don't think it's in on any of the screens that I have here. Let me switch back to the whole screen. But now I'm going to get into the code that I actually, after including the plugin is there. Now I can access it within an application. And here's a chunk of code that I used, that I copied from their site as the basis. Here is the actual code that I'll put in for the demo I'm going to be doing shortly. This right here is the scan.scandoc, and that comes from the document scanner. This would be a little different if I were pulling it from a camera, but basically a doc scanner comes up, opens up the camera, scans in your text. If there's an error, here's the code. It will display an error message if there's an error that occurs. If there's a success, it will bring you to this next chunk of code and the rest of the code that I had to write here. So the text to OCR dot rec text is actually coming from the OCR file. So we have two plugins that we use in here, and we're working them together. One of the options is at the beginning of this is a 0, and we can go here to see what the options are. The options are the source type for that, and they give their recommendations here on which sources you should use. I've always used the very high one, a very high accurate recognition, and it's the recommended. It's funny that they don't recommend any of these choices, but if you feel you need you can try them out and see how they work. What's returned from this is a recognized text, and that recognized text is an object, and in that object we have to parse through that object to get this information. They weren't very clear on showing examples of this. I had to go through their site to kind of see how to do this. And going through the site, they basically stated that a lot of these are not really being used anymore. They're using lines is the only option now. So my next parameter is lines, and what lines it has is some other parameters that you can do. Those parameters down here for lines, you have a couple of options here. And one of them is to pass back an array that contains each text block. I'm showing the code here again that's pulled from the other screen. So we have recognized text, lines, and then line text. It's an array, so I know I have a length repeated down here. I want to get the value of the records I'm looping through, and I'm using this value right here at 0 base. So we first get the text line 1, 0, then 2, and so forth. Finally, there's a on fail. If your capture fails for whatever reason, this code would then run. And lastly, I have in my application, I have a card capture. Excuse me, I wasn't supposed to go there. I have a card capture in field that I showed earlier when I was showing the application. You'll see it come up again because I'm going to be showing it in live action shortly here. So that will be my next screen, where I'm going to take you to the Arizona Museum of Natural History to see it running live. Okay, I'm back. I'm here at the Arizona Museum of Natural History, and it's really sunny out here in Arizona. And I'm going to be heading on inside to show you the application, the OCR software, working in the fields. I'm going to get out of here right now because this guy is really kind of looking hungry, and I'm going to get out of here. All right, so with my app, which I showed earlier, this is actually on a physical device. I was able to do some card capturing, because it's one thing to do it here, which is my first example here. I'm going to do a scan. I'm doing a scan of a piece of paper here in my office. And I'm going to scan this page in, accept it. Next, you can box in the area if you want to cut out some of the text, and then click OK. And there you go. There's the new text is brought in for the record. Now, actually testing it on site, here I am inside the museum. I wanted to go around and try out different cards that they had on display and to see how they worked. So I'm scanning this in. And it looks like I cut that film off short, I think. Is it still going? Well, that was a bad example. This is what you do with live demos. Let's see if this one works any better. Okay, here's another one. This was a difficult one. It had a lot more text to read. I had to turn the camera sideways. It's even skewed. Didn't have to be perfect. And there you go. There's the data that got pulled in.
Wow, it did a reasonably good job of that, actually.
Yeah, it did. When I tested this,
wow.
You can't hear it here, but I did the text to speech after each one. It was actually in the video. I had to cut it down, and I think that's why I skewed that last video.
Yeah.
But yeah, I follow each one I scan. I followed it word for word. You know, it's going to be formatted better, but this is just grabbing the ASCII text. So now it can be brought into a word processor or saved as data.
Way better than typing it in on your little keyboard, I think.
On the little keyboard. So, and I'm going to show one more. And it's not that one. This one was a difficult one. I thought it was going to be a difficult one, but it actually got it the first time. This was a sign that was with white text, and it had a lighted background, and it was very green, and I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but here, let's scan that in. I'm going to try to narrow down the reading area a little. And there we go. There's the new text that I just grabbed for that particular item again. And it's really quick.
Wow, that was really fast. So the plugin doesn't require another server, right? It's just doing all that right
No,
on your phone?
it's
Oh,
doing it.
neat.
It's doing it all right locally on the phone. If I had it connected to this server, if connected to Wi-Fi, I could connect it to my server at home and had been creating new records for each one. But the
Sure.
main purpose was to show the plugin, so didn't have to show saving records and things like that.
That's
But
pretty neat.
so that's what I was able to build by doing a search for plugins that are still out there. This is still kind of an old plugin. It hasn't been touched for about a year, and it's still good. And there's always the ability, if you find out that something's not working right, to contact them, see if they can fix it. If they can't fix it, and you have the abilities to work with plugins, you can pull that plugin down, fix it, and then you're all set to go and update a new version of it for everybody to use. It's really a nice technology, and it's going to be there for a very long time because these are citizens developers. They love doing this. They do this stuff for free. So that's kind of my presentation on how to use the plugins, basically how to build a CLI and all. I had to take you through a lot of steps as far as things you had to fill in once you opened up a new Cordova build session, and things that you needed to choose and what you got, because that has to be filled out first before you can go actually edit the XML file in the plugin. So it's kind of a long journey to get there, but we got there, and this worked. This was actually, I did this test yesterday live. Every one of them worked first time.
Neat. I like when that happens.
Yep.
So all right, I have a couple of questions here that hopefully we can get to. So before, when you were building you're using Cordova to build the package, the ultimate result is you could put it into one of the stores. You could also put it into test flight. Is that right as well? And
with Apple.
With Apple.
iOS, they have test flight.
Apple has test flight. And so my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is test flight is a way of allowing you to distribute your application to a limited number of people, and I think for a limited time, without having to officially put it through the App Store first. Is that kind of the gist of it?
Yeah, it's a limited amount of time, but they've extended that time quite a bit. Excuse me, there's a limited time. It's about 80 days. I meant to say there's a limited number of users that you can send it to, but that has increased. It used to be 100, but I believe they allow you to do quite a bit more than 100 now. And basically all you have to do is send them an email. They install test flight on their device, and they'll get an invite, and
cool.
And they load it and run it.
Yeah. All right. So I have another question, and then I think we'll switch over to Bob Moore if he's ready. We have him as a surprise guest today. He's written in on a comment that I think I'd like him to follow up on. But just a quick thing back to Cordova. So Cordova versus Alpha Launch. Why would you use one over the other?
You mean
Alpha Launch? Yeah, sorry. So Alpha Launch, which we saw earlier today, and you worked with Ronald Gray, I believe, at House of Rayford. When he was demonstrating it, it looked like if you want to get a new app published, you just hit one button, and then all of a sudden it's there in Alpha Launch, which to me seems like the real huge advantage of Alpha Launch. And we did make him a custom branded version, but even the one that's just right there in the App Store that you can download right now for free will also do that. The nice thing about Cordova is that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong or update me, is that if our Alpha Launch doesn't have the included Cordova plugins that you want, you're kind of stuck because you can't really add them to alpha launch. It's already a finished app.
Yeah, and that's where we would have to say, well, which plugin do you want to add to it? And that's usually done during.
And we can do that, yeah, for a custom build out, that would be fine, but for the off
Yeah.
the shelf one, we can't do that. And then the other nice thing of the two is, of course, that although if you hire us, we can brand Alpha Launch, but if you don't hire us, you could still use Cordova to build your own branded Alpha Anywhere applications that go into both the App Store and the iOS Store. So I've got Bob. I wonder if Bob's want to talk to us. Bob is our VP of Mobility. A lot of people have seen him before, and he has something that might be of interest to us. Let me see if I can find him here in the guest list and bring him up here. All right, Bob, where did you go? There he is. All right, he's joined us here in the room. Hello, Bob, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Hey, awesome. All right.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Chris.
So Bob, who does this stuff day and night, kind of like Chris, has a simpler way perhaps to add a third-party plugin. I was wondering if you might be able to describe it.
I can show it actually.
You
If
can show it.
you
Oh my
can-
gosh.
yeah,
I will make you the
I can
presenter
give
then.
you a quick demo. It's very
All right.
easy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, would like to record. Sorry, it's asking me something.
All kinds of questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to go through. This is all Apple security stuff coming up. It says GoToMeeting will not be able to record the contents of your stream until it is quit. So I suspect.
Oh yeah. Don't worry about that. It's being
So
recorded anyway.
just say later there or something. Okay.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine. Yeah, you don't have to record. We've got it covered.
Okay, so let me just, I guess I can do the show.
Mhm.
Just bear with me, folks.
No problem. Says it's waiting to view your
Hopefully
screen.
it'll show the right screen. No, it doesn't seem. For some reason, I've clicked the show button, but that doesn't seem to do anything. Maybe, let's see, there's a couple of other, no one can
Yeah.
see
If you
your
take a look
screen.
up in the
Oh,
sharing.
there it
okay.
is. Okay.
There you go.
Now, the thing is, I have multiple screens. Which screen do you see?
I don't see any of your screens yet. It says that it's waiting to view your monitor. Now I'm seeing one which says
Okay,
connected to
all right.
GoToWebinar.
So do you see
I see Alpha
and
Anywhere.
Porsche in the background?
I do.
That's good. Okay.
I don't know if I would have recognized it as a Porsche right away. I'm not as good a car person, but
Well, Porsche has a rather distinct
oh,
silhouette.
it does there. Okay, now that you moved it, yeah, thanks.
But
man.
anyway, one of the ways, and Chris is you're gonna like this. I added this feature a number of years ago. So if you go into Cordova and you say manage my Cordova plugins, these are third-party. These are your plugins. These are whatever you want to add.
Neat.
Okay. So let's say, for example, I've got this plugin right here, and I say edit it. So this is what you need to add a plugin. You give it a name, so whatever you want to call it. This is the resource. Where are you going to get it, right? And you can put help, like what is it? Where are we going to get it from? Either Git or npm. What version do you want? And then you're done. You go okay. So you're done, and then you go okay. So now in the app itself, when you're building a new PhoneGap app, that's going to be there for all your projects, and it's right here. Required user included third-party Cordova plugins, and so instead of manually editing the config XML file, this is all you have to do.
Oh, that's convenient. Yeah.
Bob, you are my hero.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, it's one of those little boxes that unless you check it and check it out, you don't know about it. There's
That
a
is
lot of that
fantastic,
sort of
man.
thing in Alpha,
Very,
and
very cool.
but yeah, that I thought you might
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would,
Hey.
yeah, I haven't not seen it, but also I've been working in a much older version of Alpha for quite a long time now for a
Yeah.
client. So I
The
would
other
not
thing
have seen it.
The other thing to know about this is if you include, let's say that we've got a plugin that's in the third-party library, whatever, and then you include the same plugin but a different version, we'll use your version. So this takes priority over this.
Okay, so yeah, because I've noticed that if it's checked, both will show up.
It shouldn't, actually. It shouldn't. But it might. If it does, it's not
Let
supposed
us
to,
know,
but
right?
it might.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I noticed
The
when
key is as long as it works,
yeah.
But the idea is that if you were to say you wanted to use this printer plugin, and you didn't want to use the version that we're loading, you wanted to use a newer version or something like that, you could put it in here, put in a different version, and the idea is that this one will take priority over that one. So
okay, I also wasn't using this. I was using an older versions, of course, which I was manually adding it into the XML file.
That's very cool.
So that's just
So I got a question now for either one of you. What goes on inside one of these magic plugin files? What are they written in? What does it even look like if I were to open one up? Is it a binary? Is it a text file? Is it in
the plugin itself, the source code?
Yeah.
I can actually show you some.
Can you show us one?
Let me see if I have my.
Because I think you've written at least one, isn't that right, Bob?
I've written more than one.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We'll just open up my Git repo, and we'll look at one of my plugins. So bear with me here.
And the nice thing about having your own plugins is that you can maintain them. You're not tied down to a third party. If they go out of date, you can bring it up to date.
So here's the camera with XIF plugin right here.
Okay.
So they're going to be, when we look at the actual code itself, let's see. That's my easy way to do, well, actually my easiest way to do it is probably to look. We'll have the history of that. And then probably, can I view it on, there's an easy way to get to this from GitHub.
Mhm.
If I can do that. View on GitHub. Yeah, let's do that. That'll go to the repo. Here we go. That's what I wanted to see. All right. So here, if you look in source, right, you'll see there's an Android source and there's an iOS source. There's also some others. And you go in here, this is all of the source code for Android. So this is all in Java.
Okay.
And you can look through this. This is all up there. It's public domain. This is what this particular. So all of the Android plugins are typically written in Java.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some backing XML stuff here. This is the way you build a Cordova app. I mean, a Android app. So that was the Android source. Then the Xcode, the iOS source. Let's take a look at, say, this is all written in Objective-C.
Okay.
Okay. So it can also be written in Swift now.
Right.
It couldn't at that time. And then the JavaScript itself, if we come back to, let's see. Just give me a second here. Come on. Is in www. And then this is all the JavaScript. So this JavaScript would be constant. This would be used by both.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is, the JavaScript is what talks to the plugins, hence the phone gap, jumping over the gap, right?
Yeah.
Between JavaScript and native. So all of the source code that we looked at that was here is all native code. So, and then we talk to that code with JavaScript. That's how PhoneGap works.
So building your own plugin is not necessarily for the faint of heart. You need to know at least programming languages for iOS and Android. But
yeah, you've got to. Yeah, I mean, it can get complicated, but it is fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So now, what prompted you to build a camera plugin? I imagine there was already a camera plugin, right, for Cordova.
Well, there was, but it didn't support the getting XIF data. So I couldn't get the location of where was that picture taken, and there, you know, all the XF data, there's a tremendous amount of XF data that's available, and it seems a waste to be throwing that away. And
Sure.
so that's why I wrote this plugin. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So.
Well, we're coming to the end of our session. Does anyone have
Yeah,
any other additional
I was-
question?
Yeah, I was just going to say one more thing. The session
Sure.
kind of reminded me of my old math classes, where the teacher would come up and show you this long way of solving a problem, and you had to use that on your tests. And then later on, he'd come back, Bob being it, and saying, "Oh, here's the easy way to do it."
Well, I think it's really good to show
That's the
both
point. It
because
progresses. Yeah.
I think it's also very good to understand, you know, how to read and work with the config XML file. So
Yeah.
no, don't feel that way. Really.
Well, I honestly
Awesome.
didn't know it was there, but like I said, you're my
Yeah.
hero. That's when.
Well, good enough. I hope everybody learns something for sure.
Hey, that's great. Chris, Bob, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We're coming to the end of our session, and we have one more session left today, and it's with Kurt Rayner, who's going to be going over cloud usage, troubleshooting, reading logs, understanding what uses up units on the compute units, and some other fun stuff. So that'll be at 4 o'clock, about 15, 20 minutes from now. We'll see you then. Thanks again. Bye-bye.